The circus is shrouded in darkness. The flickering light of torches dances on the wet asphalt of the racetrack, and the roar of the crowd fills the air. The scent of blood and sweat lingers, and the gleam of metal wheels of chariots, ready to tear flesh, is reflected in the dim glow. Here in the Circus Maximus, a legend was born. He was no mere charioteer, he was GaiusDiocles. Born at the turn of the 1st century AD in Baetica, the Roman province in Spain, GaiusDiocles emerged from humble beginnings. His family was not aristocratic. His father was a simple craftsman. Yet it was this young man, driven by an insatiable hunger for speed and survival, who would come to be known as the King of Chariots. His mother, a woman of no extraordinary aspirations, had no idea her son would be destined for greatness. Diocles was not meant for ordinary life. His yearning for velocity bordered on primal. He was born for the arena, to become a living nightmare for his enemies. His first races began in 48 AD, when he was just 18. He arrived in Rome, ready to battle in the greatest arena in the world, the Circus Maximus. This was not just a sporting event, this was mass spectacle, drawing crowds of thousands. The circus was an enormous racetrack, seating up to 250,000 spectators, where the finest charioteers fought for glory, riches, and survival. The races were held on a long track shaped like a crescent, with sharp turns where fate would be sealed for many. The Circus Maximus wasn't just home to chariot races. It was a venue for gladiatorial combat, wild beast hunts, and mythical reenactments. But the chariot races stood at the peak of popularity, becoming brutal theaters of life and death combat, where speed and skill meant the difference between life and death. From the very start, his cold-bloodedness on the track shocked everyone. Every movement was precise. Every sharp turn of the chariot was a calculated decision. Diocles didn't just race, he lived it. His chariot was a finely tuned weapon, and he wasn't just a driver. He was a gladiator, his mastery over the horses and the chariot unparalleled. The crowd went wild as he crossed the finish line, with his opponents falling, maimed or dead, behind him. In his first year, Diocles already claimed victory in several races. But these weren't just wins. They were brutal, merciless victories. Each rival fell, crushed by his chariot, and his career began its meteoric rise. By 55 AD, just 7 years into his career, Diocles was already being hailed in Rome as the miracle of chariots. With each passing day, his fame grew. He became the favorite of the masses, and his triumphs on the track earned him not only fame, but also unimaginable wealth. Roman charioteers were not mere athletes. They were stars. Their lives were brutal and dangerous, but for their bloody work, they were richly rewarded. Depending on their skill and popularity, charioteers could earn substantial sums. While lesser, inexperienced charioteers earned only a few hundred sestertii per victory, the finest, like Diocles, could pocket tens of thousands of sestertii. Their earnings were enormous, especially considering the number of races they participated in and the constant betting on their victories. Diocles, as the most successful charioteer of his time, accumulated a vast fortune, and his name became synonymous with excellence. But money wasn't the only prize for these racers. Beyond their pay, they received titles, glory, and reverence. The masses adored them as gods, and those who won became truly influential figures. Even in Diocles' time, such success could translate into political clout. Charioteers were revered, treated like celebrities, and could even acquire land and homes, entering the ranks of Rome's elite. Throughout his career, which lasted until 79 AD, Diocles claimed 1,462 victories, a record that would never be broken. These weren't simple races. They were battles soaked in blood. Each victory was worthy of a legend. He didn't just win, he dominated. Each race was a deadly struggle where the track was stained with blood. The crowd screamed for his triumphs, and he never failed to deliver. For the Romans, he became more than just a charioteer. He became a symbol of power and everlasting glory. No other charioteer could match him. His competitors fell, their bodies torn apart by the wheels of his chariot, their lives vanishing in the shadow of Diocles' path. As his career progressed, he didn't just remain an athlete, He became a wealthy man, his estates expanding, and he himself becoming part of Rome's aristocracy. Diocles wielded his fame to enter political circles, and his name was whispered across the streets of Rome as a symbol of achieving greatness at any cost. But eventually, all things must come to an end. In 79 AD, after 24 years of victories, Diocles retired from the races. His body, battered by years of brutal contests, began to falter. His life in the world of chariot racing had been unforgiving and cruel. But that was the very essence of his strength. He was eternal. He knew no fatigue, and no matter how his body suffered, his spirit remained unconquerable. The final race, the last victory. And then, when he finally left the track behind, his career came to a close. Some say his death was unexpected and shrouded in mystery. Some claimed he was slain by a hidden rival, others that he simply wore himself out. His name remained in history as a symbol of cruelty, strength, and pain. After his death in the 80s AD, his memory was not forgotten. Diocles became a cult figure. The miracle of chariots was buried, but not as a mere man. He became part of the legends of Rome, and anyone who heard his name knew they were speaking of a man who didn't just win races, he conquered death. He became immortal. GaiusDiocles was the first, the last, and the only.